All right, testing. Everybody hear me okay? All right, we're officially 4 minutes past, and we want to get right into this. We've got a great informative evening in store for everybody, so we're going to jump into this. My name is Travis. I'm the director of the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for being here. This is a really important part of the public process, and so I've already thanked all of our candidates for being here. We have 8 out of the 9 candidates running for seats 1, 2, and 3. One candidate isn't participating, but that's okay. We are going to break this up into a few chunks. So first of all, I stole the microphone. I was supposed to let it go to Jean from the League of Women Voters. So let's bring Jean up and let her make some opening remarks. And she's got a few things to say on behalf of the League of Women Voters.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm getting all hyper ahead of myself.
That's all right. Hi, Jean. I break my back keeping up with you, Travis. My name is Jean Henscheid. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Idaho, and we are delighted to be doing our 4th year of candidate forums. This is a terrific crowd. So I'm supposed to set the stage for this evening. I want to thank the Chamber and the people who actually work probably the hardest, Kathy, Maya, Lindy, the folks at the Chamber of Commerce. And thank you as well to the candidates for being here this evening. 8 out of 9 is pretty darn good. Another important resource for meeting our candidates is our online voter guide, Vote 411. They've all pledged, everybody here has pledged to actually participate, so you can go into the online voters guide, Vote 411, and get additional information about these hardworking candidates. The deadline for registering to vote is October 24th. It is absolutely critical that more people vote in this election than what is standard. I think, if I recall correctly, 14% of the voters of Canyon County actually elected the current administration that governs them. 14%. So it's always abysmal when we have a non-presidential year or a non-midterm election. So please, find somebody who is not yet registered to vote and drag them to voteidaho.gov and get them registered, please. We have some QR codes for the voteidaho.gov. If you need to change your address in the DMV, they require voter identification. All of those QR codes are out by our table. We will be available after the forum to answer your questions about registering. Tonight's candidate forum rules call for adherence to the terms of civil discourse by both candidates and the public. We've been doing this for 105 years as the League of Women Voters, the granddaughters of the suffragists, so we don't take these things lightly, obviously. I also want to draw your attention to some information that is on the tables. This is about disinformation, how to recognize dis or misinformation in an election. You will hear none of that this evening, I promise. Well, I can't promise, but I assume. So if you have a civic organization or you have somebody who's interested in talking about identifying mis and disinformation, please let me know, and I'll be happy to talk about that. One final note, the recording of this event is the property of the League of Women Voters of Idaho and the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce. You're not allowed to use snippets of the videos or still photos, especially on the campaign websites. You need to use the whole forum if you're going to be putting this anywhere in your social media. So, very strict rule. Now, I'm pleased to turn it over to the indomitable College of Idaho, Professor McKay Cunningham. So I'm not McKay Cunningham.
This whole thing's my fault because I didn't put my glasses on, and so I skipped Gene and I threw the whole thing off, so I apologize. But Gene, great job. Thank you for those opening statements. Okay, making sure that I cover all my bases. We have placed throughout the room some candidate info packets on some of the chairs. We made extra copies this time because we ran out on Tuesday. But if you didn't get one and you don't have a neighbor nearby that'll share one with you, they are on our website, or excuse me, our Facebook page, the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, as well as our Instagram account. So if you follow either of those, you can see those electronically tonight, right from the convenience of your smartphone. So also, I want to encourage you all to please visit the booths of the candidates in the lobby during the breaks and afterward. If you find a candidate that you want to vote for and you want to support them, we have encouraged them to bring their signs, their stickers, their swag, and support your favorite candidate. That's what this night is all about, is figuring out who you want to vote for. If you're on the fence or if you think you made up your mind, come to this event with an open mind and listen and get a feel. It's really, being in the room as opposed to online is always better because you get a better feel for the candidates and their responses. So I appreciate you actually all coming out. But for those that couldn't be here, we have a lot of folks tuning in from home. So this event is live streamed on the city's YouTube page, and then it will be recorded, and so it will be shared around community pages as well after the fact. So if you have to leave early, you didn't get to hear the candidate that you wanted to, or you know somebody that couldn't be here tonight, please encourage them to just check out the city's YouTube page. The city has been kind enough to lend us their IT department to make that happen, so we appreciate that very much. Also, thank you, League of Women Voters, for giving us the funding to provide some cookies and water for everybody tonight. We appreciate that very much. We love partnering with the League. We're a nonpartisan organization. They are too, and so it works really well to use each other's strengths and put these events on for people, and we hope you get a lot out of it. We went through a highly scientific process to figure out who was going to answer the first question. We had 3 straws, and one of them was shorter than the other, and we had them draw. And so we have one of the candidates that drew the short straw. That was Scott Tillmont, and so he'll get the first question. After that, we go round robin. No one candidate has to be the first answer or the last answer. We make this as fair and impartial as we can possibly make it. Speaking of fair and impartial, the question process. So the League and the College of Idaho and the Chamber and a handful of folks have come up with a handful of questions, but we want to make sure we're asking the questions that the community is wanting to know answers to as well. So we've also had people from the community submitting questions, and you all have or should have a note card and a pen nearby or in your seat, and that's what we want you to use to submit your questions. We run those through a series of filters. So first and foremost, any question that's inappropriate or attacking in nature, we automatically filter those out, so don't even bother. We're going to take those out of the mix. Okay? We want to have a good civil discourse, and so we'll weed those out. The other thing that we do is we ask the same question to every candidate running for the same seat, and they get equal time to answer that question. So any question, no matter how good it is, if it's only targeted at one candidate, we will filter those out too. So please think about how you phrase your question. Make sure it's something that could be asked of all the candidates, and they can all have an equal opportunity to answer that question. Okay? Other than that, I think any other announcements we can make along the way or at the end. We're going to have a break, very short 5-minute break in between each round. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator. We have a wonderful moderator tonight. McKay Cunningham is the professor and director of the Master of Applied Public Policy program at the College of Idaho. He's a former law professor specializing in property and constitutional law, and he's also been a moderator for several of the College of Idaho's public policy forums. So let's turn it over to him, and McKay, the mic is yours.
Thanks. No. I was having lunch 2 days ago with one of my mentors, and she's a couple of decades older than me, and I was complaining to her about how difficult it is to live in our times when we are so polarized politically. And one of the things that she said to me, still a mentor, is that she was envious of the time that we are in now. And that's interesting because it's time for us, as the body politic, to step up, and you, by your presence here, are doing that very thing, as well as the candidates who are putting themselves in front of all of us for our scrutiny so that they can represent us. So all to say, thank you for being here. I think this is a wonderful idea. We need to keep doing these sorts of things. And I'll start with the first question, the short straw, Scott. I believe you drew. And the question is, I hope, a fairly easy one. Why is it that you are running for city council at this time?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Scott Tillmont. About 3.5 years ago, a friend of mine came up to me and we were talking politics, and he said that because of my background in civil structural engineering, that I may have something to offer the city. I took that with a grain of salt, started coming to meetings, started looking into what was going on here at the city, discovered that I thought, yeah, I did have something to offer. Continued to come to meetings, often the only person in the room at the meetings. Did that for about a year, and then 2 years ago I did run for seat 6. In that election, I came up about 3% short, figured I did fairly well, figured I'd give it one more shot. So here I am, been continuing to go to meetings, been continuing to build relationships with other council members from other cities, with staff here, as well as serving on the impact fee committee. So that's basically where I'm at. I think I have something to offer. Obviously, some people a couple years ago thought I did, and so I'm hoping this might be the year. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And for the audience, every candidate has 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. Carlos, introduce yourself briefly and tell us why it is that you are running for office.
Well, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? I would like to thank you all for participating in this important part of our democratic process. As mentioned, my name is Carlos Hernandez. I was born in Moses Lake, Washington, and raised on the values of hard work, family, faith, and the idea of being a productive member of our community. Professionally, I work in electric infrastructure as a project controller and chief of staff to the president, helping manage power projects and keeping communities connected across the West and throughout the United States. In these roles, I have learned how to keep multi-million-dollar projects on budget, solve problems under pressure, and ensure accountability, skills I believe translate directly into serving for the City Council. I'm running for Caldwell City Council because our city is at a juncture. Growth is here, and with that comes opportunities and challenges. I want to make sure we manage the growth responsibly. We develop benefits, well, just kidding. I want to make sure that we are growing responsibly and that that development benefits the people who call Caldwell home. I want to ensure housing is affordable for working families and that our first responders have the resources that they need and that transparency and accountability are the standard, not the exception. At the end of the day, the campaign is not about me, it's about us. It's about making sure families, businesses, and our neighbors truly feel their voices are being reflected at City Hall. I believe Caldwell's best days are ahead of us, and together we can build a Caldwell where we can all be proud.
Thank you. Brandon.
That's going to be hard to follow. Welcome everybody tonight. I would just want to reiterate the appreciation we have for you to come here and listen to our vision that we have for Caldwell. So why I'm running, my name is Brandon Wiest. Why I'm running, I served in the military for a little over 14 and a half years, gained a lot of leadership responsibilities and capabilities with that. Once I got out of the military, I joined up with a volunteer organization. It's veteran-centric called Team Rubicon. They do a lot of disaster response. They saw a lot of leadership capabilities in me, and so I became a volunteer leader for them, which I currently do. I'm a logistics coordinator for what we call the geographic area. So I have Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. And so I think my capabilities of being a leader and having my background in the military will suit me well in this position.
Thank you so much. Moving on, this next question begins with you, Carlos, and the question is about what City Council has done recently. In your opinion, what has City Council done really well? What should be lauded with regard to what City Council has done really well in the past year and a half? And what has City Council failed to do well, or said more diplomatically, what could they have done better?
That's a great question. Thank you. Recently, I've been attending a lot of the city council meetings, and I believe one of the things that they are doing is using the comprehensive plan in a way that will help manage growth to some extent. I believe that they have plans set for community members to get engaged. I see that they're starting to connect more over social media, whether it's through parks or the city economic development. They're really trying to get out there and promote the city in a positive way. When it comes to something that they could have worked a little bit better on, and I believe a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people, is the rollout of the parking. And one of the things that I think would have helped with that is the constant communication through that process. You know, there are a lot of decisions being made, but the transparency was needed, I believe, with the citizens to understand how they were able to work the machines, how they were going to be able to differentiate when they had to pay and when they didn't. And so I think that the rollout could have been a lot better. But overall, as of right now, I think that it's going in a direction where there is growth, and hopefully I'll be able to help with that.
Thank you. Brandon.
Yeah, so I think what Caldwell has done well is I love like the Indian Creek area, gathering that up, building that up, still bringing in new business and restaurants down there. I think it's great, and I think that's something we need to continue. I know we're looking at with the city council meetings I have been attending since I decided to run. I know that things are being looked at with some of the same planners that plan that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that entails. Something I think that we could do better, I think, is having a more accountable and open council and leadership in. I think the community has grown to see some things that have not gone all that well, parking meters, hotel, et cetera, and I think that we could be better leaders and better versed in getting the word out to our community and let them know what's happening. And I feel like that's where my leadership capabilities and my teamwork ethic would excel.
Thank you. Scott.
Okay, trying to keep this within the question of the last year and a half. Over the last year and a half, a couple of things the city's done really, really well has been staying within budget. When you can only raise your budget 8% a year, and you're trying to make sure your people are paid and make sure that you're providing the services that you need, it's a difficult job. And I've sat through probably 3 different budget years, listening to the debate back and forth, seeing a lot of our wages be able to come up. We had a lot of turnover in a lot of our departments that has now stopped because they have been able to rework the budget, get people paid the way they need to be paid. Some of the problems that we have had, a divide in growth. Right now, a lot of our growth is sprawling. We don't need to be taking over seed land and ag land that we've been taking over. We have plenty of infill that needs to be taken care of first, that's already been annexed. The other problem is a lot of it is either rentals or single-family homes. There's not a lot of owner-occupy in the middle. I'd like to see some of that changed. One of the other problems with council, I believe, has been our decorum. There's been a lot of infighting and battling within the council itself, instead of actually trying to work together to find solutions that help everybody in the city. One of the things I've been doing, working with a lot of different cities, council people from other cities, some of our county commissioners and other things, is trying to build those kinds of relationships, so.
Thank you. This next question is, I'll just read it. What demographic, what group of people here in Caldwell have been neglected? What area, if you won't want to talk about demographic, but what area or location in the city has been neglected or needs more attention with regard to city resources? Brandon, you're first on this one.
Oof. That's a great question. Because I have been attending the city council meetings, I know we have some things coming up on the north side of the interstate. I know that they're looking for sidewalks and some other infrastructure things up there. And so I believe that that's probably a big part of a big section that has been neglected of the city as a whole. I mean, I can't think of any like group of people other than that, but I would say we have to do better on getting things done as a whole. Like, you know, when we take care of an area, not neglecting those areas. And so I think that's where getting, like Scott said, being, the council members have not been teamwork oriented from what I've seen. A lot of like the infiltrating and all that stuff. So I think if you can get that back into city council, that's going to solve a lot of the things like that, because you're not going to have people being left behind just because of a bickering thing, or things aren't going to be getting missed.
Thank you. Scott, same question to you. What demographic or group has been neglected in the city of Caldwell, or what area in the city has been neglected?
Okay, to me, the biggest group that's probably been neglected, believe it or not, is our youth. We offer a lot of rentals. We don't really offer opportunities for our youth to find affordable housing to get into, to actually buy into the city. Like I said, I'd like to see more owner-occupy. My son's 25. He can't afford a place right now, and he'd like to be here. My first home that I bought was actually a condo. It was my first entry into real estate. I'd like to see more people buy into the city. Our biggest neglect area-wise would be commercial. Right now, rooftops don't pay long-term. They pay in the short term. City gets a lot of money up front from residential. Where your money actually comes from for your city services long-term is commercial. We are completely out of balance right now. Most everybody, if you ask them where they go shopping, they say Nampa. Very few shop here. And when your second largest source of income is sales tax, we need more commercial here. North Ranch has been a great start, but we need to actually focus more on that. And when you give people the opportunity, or a builder the opportunity between rooftops or commercial, they'll always go rooftops because their ROI is easier to flip. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Carlos.
Thank you for that question. When I look at the community of Caldwell, a population that has been historically neglected is the Latino population. And if I look at Caldwell, an area that has been historically neglected has been an area called the North End, or Old Town. I went to a feasibility study yesterday, and it is amazing the different ways in which they are trying to come up with solutions to that area. Fifth and Chicago, a tiered effort. And I believe that that is what is needed. We need to be able to provide sidewalks, lighting, the basic necessities to all of our community members. I believe it was the Department of Justice that said if we were to provide lighting in areas, it would most likely reduce crime by 36%. If we are trying to advocate for our community, that is an area that I see needs to be advocated for, and we need to be able to put our effort to areas just like the North End to make sure they have sewer, they have water. I would just love some sidewalks, and definitely lighting for Joanna from La Cosita. So.
Thank you. There are a lot of questions that we have received from the constituents about growth, and we might be able to return there. We've got such a short amount of time. I want to switch gears a little bit. During Tuesday's mayoral panel, there was discussion around policing in Caldwell. Do we need more police officers? Are there strategies that you support that modify or alter how the police currently operate in this city? And we start with you, Scott.
Okay, when it comes to policing, over the last 3.5 years that I've been involved, I've seen it change quite a bit. One of the things our police department is doing is shifting more towards a technology-driven policing and less boots on the ground. When you're looking at a budget and you're trying to make sure that you can maximize your service, we still need people, actual officers on the ground doing the job. But if you can offset some of that with technology where you can take on some of the activities that we don't need personnel for, and when you're looking at long-term budgeting, where year to year, a person costs me year to year, but I can buy with impact fees or with a one-time purchase, a piece of technology that'll do the same thing, or at least take a load off of people, I see we're actually going in a very good direction. Could it be better? Everything can always be better. I think we're in a good place right now. We'll have to see as it goes along. I would like to see better services across the board, but I think all of us would. Like Carlos said, a lot of that has to do with infrastructure and lighting or any other myriad of items that could be addressed. So personally right now, from what I've seen over the last few years, I think our policing is actually getting very good.
Thank you. Carlos.
Yes, so I was actually able to go to an open house at the police department, and I was floored by the technology that they have in order to keep us safe. I think that it is always important to make sure that as we are growing, so are the services that we are providing for our citizens. Whether it's the police department, whether it's the fire station, we are growing at an exponential rate, and we need to make sure as a community that we are supporting our policemen, our firefighters, so that they can provide the services that we are expecting from them. So I would definitely think, and I know that they are doing a tremendous job in keeping us safe and making sure that they are able to provide all of the different services. I know that they recently got some drones, and Scott made a great point that they are moving more towards technology. And I would rather have some drone get broken than someone's arm get broken, right? It's like we need to make sure that we are keeping people safe and that we are advocating for our citizens. So I do believe that our policemen and our firefighters deserve all of our support as a city council.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, Scott and Carlos brought up some great points, and I have to agree with a lot of them. I think the way that we're moving to a technology-driven force is great with the drones being first responder. I was here for the city council meeting, not the last one, but the one before that, when they were talking, when the captain came in and talked about the drones and how they were functioning, and I was just taken aback on how he was explaining the process of how those things work. I was just like blown away on how that is. So I do agree with that. And then like Scott and Carlos also said, personnel are always important. And as we grow, we'd like to also see our services grow as well. And like Scott said, we always can do better, but I think we are definitely moving in the right direction.
Thank you. I've got a lot of questions that really kind of want to know about the differentiation among the candidates. So what issue separates or distinguishes you most clearly from those of your opponents? Carlos, we begin with you.
Thank you so much. I think for me, one of the biggest aspects of my campaign is definitely looking at Caldwell in a way in which is being influenced by the state government. I think it is very difficult for a town, as Scott had mentioned, that is growing 30, 40% over the last couple of years, and we're only able to grow the city budget by a very single-digit percent. I think that that is very difficult for us to be able to provide the services like pulling weeds, making sure that we are able to get our team ready for Winter Wonderland. That is something very difficult, and I believe that the city at times is being stretched thin. So legislative advocacy and making sure that we are connecting with our state legislatures, I think is one of the topics that differentiates me from some of the other people running. I think it is important for us to be able to connect with them, connect with other cities in the area and say, hey, this is what's happening with our district, with our city, and we need to make sure that you are advocating for all of us at the state legislature. And I believe that that is one of the topics that differentiates me from the others. Thanks.
Thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I think what separates me, I am not a politician, as most of you can probably tell, but I am a citizen of Caldwell. I've been here for a long time, moved here in '99. I grew up in Meridian, went to Meridian High, but I am doing this because I just want to give back to my city, and like I've said previous, I feel like there's things that we could do a lot different, and I think my leadership capabilities could help with a lot of that. And so I'm running as, your neighbor, not a politician, veteran, not a politician, and I think that is what I have to offer our city.
Thank you. Scott, what distinguishes you from your opponents?
Couple of things. Also, I'm not a politician. I'm a drafter by trade. I do civil structural engineering work. I work with a lot of different city groups, municipalities, highway districts, things like that. I understand why is it we can't get something done on 2026? Well, that's because ITD controls that, not us. These are things that a lot of our council people have no idea about. They're things that I can hopefully bring that'll keep us out of trouble. The other thing is, I actually do know, and I've built relationships with other council members from other cities. I've built relationships with our county commissioners, with our city staff, with our county staff. I know personally a lot of different senators and House representatives. Like Carlos was saying, there's a lot of issues that we have through impact fees, through mitigation codes, things like that, that I would like to see us be able to do more with. People are always asking, why can't we charge impact fees for schools? The state doesn't allow it. This is something that I've actually been working with some of our state representatives to try to change that law. Getting that through is always difficult at the State House, but being in a position here gives you that little bit extra power to be able to talk to them or at least go up to the State House and deal with it. These are the things that I offer that some don't.
Thank you. This next question starts with you, Brandon, and it goes back to growth in our city. Do you believe there's a problem with gentrification in Caldwell, i.e., as more growth and money come into Caldwell, are long-term residents priced out of their own neighborhoods? If so, what strategies do you support to address gentrification?
You might have to fill me in again on that one, but it was talked about at the mayor forum the other night. I think with growth, and I think Scott hit on it just a little bit ago on a different question, that we're going out to the ag land, we're going out and making it more of a sprawl, but there is opportunity to do it right here. And I think we have to take that. We have to keep the fees, the impact fee. I mean, impact fees are huge. We have to be able to not pass that on to the residents. We have to be able to afford the homes that we live in. I know my daughter lives in Caldwell, and they just bought a home, and I was just beside myself when it was the amount that they paid for the house. So we have to figure out a way to keep working families in homes, and the people that have them now, we cannot push them out.
Thank you. Scott, is gentrification a problem in Caldwell? And if so, what would you propose to do about it?
The reality becomes that's a problem everywhere. Perfect example, I built a home in 2014. In 6 years, it had doubled. That had nothing to do with anything other than inflation. That's something that this city, no city, anybody can control. That's a federal issue. When the price of lumber, as most people saw, went through the roof, that's not something anybody can control. What we can do is look long-term. When we can raise our levy rates, if we can raise it and have commercial and our sales tax offset that, we're not needing to raise it against our properties. That helps us not tax people out of their homes. Unfortunately, when that bases against the value of your home, once again, that's a state issue. How they determine property tax is determined by the state, not by the city. We only control our levy rate. It would be something that I've actually worked with a senator trying to find out, or trying to come up with solutions on that. It just never got off the floor or through committee. These are things that are a problem, but they're a problem everywhere. It's not just this city. And we can help offset it by looking to make sure that our long-term is covered with commercial.
Thank you. Carlos.
Yeah, I think that that's a very interesting balance, right? You have a lot of growth, you have a lot of people coming in. And so I think it depends on if we're able to get citizens to participate, right? The citizens in those areas that are being gentrified, I think that that's one of the probably most important thing, like the feasibility study that happened yesterday. It was about the North End, you know, getting people to those meetings and letting them know that their voice can be heard, and it is being heard, I think is really important. So participatory planning, that's what that's called. I also think when it does come to building, if there are ways in which we can encourage developers to set aside a share of different units or what have you to individuals who aren't able to afford the new rental price, I think is very important. And I think that that is something I would be advocating for. And also, I'm not a politician either. Like, everyone said it but me, so I'm not one, don't worry, okay? Thank you.
No one wants to be a politician. It's a little bit frustrating. There are so many great questions that have been submitted to us that we just do not have the time to ask. Those questions are going to be put on the Caldwell Chamber Facebook page, and we have encouraged the candidates when they have time to answer them outside of this venue. But for now, we have one last question of this panel, and I believe we begin with Scott. And it's really just what is your closing argument? And if you could kind of really highlight what it is that is different about your campaign as opposed to your opponents.
Okay, just to wrap it up. Part of what I'm running for is because I believe that we have ways and means to be able to control some of what is going on. I want to be somebody who represents all 70,000 people in this city that's really looking at what is best across the board, bringing some decorum back in, actually trying to work with others. We have abilities through state statute to create codes to mitigate impacts on our schools, impacts on our infrastructure, actual infrastructure, something that I've drawn and designed most of my life. I've lived here for over half my life. I moved up here in the late 90s. I used to own 3 acres out in West Caldwell by West Canyon Elementary School. I've had both acreage properties as well as city. I've dealt with the county as well as the city. I understand how a lot of this intermingles and works together. It is something that I do believe is lacking on the council, and I believe that's something I do have to offer. Hopefully, it's also a voice that I can give the people of the city, and that's why I'm running. Thanks.
Thank you. Carlos.
Well, I just want to again thank everyone for being here tonight. I think people should vote for me because I believe deeply in this community and the people. My professional experience in managing large infrastructure projects has taught me how to be accountable with budgets and decisions that impact thousands of people. My education in public administration and business administration has given me the tools to approach complex issues with both responsibility and vision. But most importantly, I have come to see Caldwell as a place where progress happens when we build bridges between neighbors, businesses, and city government, and when every person feels heard. At the end of the day, my campaign is about hope. Hope that Caldwell's best days are ahead of us. Hope that we can grow while keeping our sense of community. And hope that by listening and working together, we can build a future of accountability, fairness, and opportunity. That's why my slogan is your vote, your voice, your victory. Because when you show up, speak out, and take part, we all win as a community. I'm asking for your support, whether if you want a yard sign or donation, but ultimately I'm asking for your vote in November. Not because I have all the answers, but because I am committed to doing the work, building bridges, and serving with integrity. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, again, thank you all for coming out tonight. We do appreciate it. Yeah, I think in closing, what I have to bring, I know Scott hit on it a little bit, but it's my leadership in bringing back that teamwork into our city council. I think a lot of that has been lost. The respect that they have for one another. I think I can help reintegrate that into the council. I believe that being a resident here, I know the growth pains, for lack of a better word, the things, the ongoings, the daily ongoings that we have here. I think I can bring something to the table to be able to help get things like that passed through. I believe in our city wholeheartedly, and I think that lost the word. Moving forward with what we have, what Caldwell already has, like I've said before, the Indian Creek, I live over off where they're building the new Home Depot and the Fred Meyer soon to come. I just believe building on that will help us continue to go in the right direction.
Fantastic. Please join me in thanking our candidates for seat 1. We are going to take a 6-minute break, to change panelists. Please return, if you can, by 7:53. 6:53.
All right, folks, if you could find your seats, please, we're going to get rolling. We want to make sure we give everybody plenty of time.
All right, thank you. This is the panel of candidates for seat 2 on the Caldwell City Council. I believe, Dennis, is that correct? You got the short straw, as it were, and so we're going to start with you, Dennis, and the question will be the same first question that was asked of the first panel, and that is, briefly introduce yourself in a minute and a half, and then tell us why it is that you are running for this position.
Right here, that it? All right, it's the first time using one of these. So, my name is Dennis Stack. I've spent the past few years having this urge to be in this exact seat, but I've never actually wanted to do it. I've always been a little, I'm gonna do that, but I never actually stepped up and started. Then this year, I decided after talking to a friend, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I was complaining to a couple people and they were like, you know what, that's me too, and it's like, all right. It's time to not just sit here on the couch and, be unhappy about it, but stand up and actually try. So here I am. So I've spent half of my life working and supporting my community. I served in the Army National Guard, where I learned teamwork and listening to other people. You have to listen to your soldiers. Sometimes they have good advice, sometimes they don't, but you need to still listen to it. I have been a teacher. I worked in special education. In the past 11 years, I've done behavior interventionist and special education. Past 2 years, I've been a substitute teacher. Through that, I've learned to be able to support my parents, support the students, and I help be a voice for them if they need anything outside of that classroom. And last, I'm a farmer. I wake up sometimes before the day is started, and sometimes I go until after the day is over. I understand what a day of hard work means, and it's not always easy.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder, we've got a lot of volunteers here taking your cards that you write down that are brought to me just to ask. I'm just an intermediary, but a lot of them are College of Idaho students, and I just wanted to recognize them as part of this political process. That same question now. Okay. That same question now to you, Chuck. Introduce yourself briefly and tell us why it is that you are running for re-election.
Okay. Good evening. Chuck Stoddick, been in Idaho since 1977, born and raised in Minnesota on a farm, still a Minnesota Viking for better or for worse. I retired from the Simplot company after almost 30 years of service. I was in the food group. I was a raw procurement director, took care of all the contract negotiations with growers and with various cities, looking for areas to grow potatoes and also looking for areas to build processing plants. I traveled all over the world with the Simplot company, which I appreciated, learned a lot. One thing I have to say that the gentleman who I worked for was not an easy gentleman to work for. He said, Chuck, I hired you to solve problems, not to complain about it. And when I came to Caldwell, my taxes were about $2,200. They went up to $4,200 in 2 years, and I thought to myself, I need to do something about this. So I got involved with city government and went to a lot of meetings and got elected back in 2015 and had a 2-year hiatus and came back again here 4 years ago and got a lot of experience in government right now, and I'll do a good job for the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy.
My name is Randy Neary. I am actually born and raised in Caldwell. I'm definitely a child of Caldwell. I've been a general contractor in the city of Caldwell for now 26 years, and I feel that experience brings a level of, I've had to spend other people's money and be accountable for it. And that's what we would do as city council, is we'll be accountable for the taxpayers' money. I also believe that Benjamin Franklin said that it is your obligation and your responsibility to give back to both your industry and your community. I've given back to my industry. I've served on several boards for builders and different entities like that. I've served on the board for school in Nampa. I served for the high school over there on trades, because we're also an electrical contractor, so I'm big in trades. but also it's time that I give back to the community. So with this unprecedented growth that the city is experiencing right now, I believe I can bring a level of conversation to the question that's being missed about some of the whys and some of the hows and what it looks like. Good projects, bad projects, should we not. Also, as a business owner for 26 years, I know what it is, trust me, to balance budgets, to be able to make payroll, to be able not take paychecks, et cetera, like that. And I think that is also something that's been missing in city council.
Thank you. This next question begins with you, Chuck, and it was referred a couple of times by our past panel, and it deals with consensus, and it deals with civility with regard to the city council members as well as their interaction with regard to the mayor. What are your thoughts with regard to being direct and strong in your point of view while not demonizing counterpoints of view?
Well, it's sad to say, I think everybody knows, we call a spade a spade. We've had a lot of disorganization on the city council. There's a lot of different ideas that don't culminate into one good idea for the city. We need to have better communications relative to not only the council down to the mayor and the mayor up to. We don't have a good relationship right now with the county officials, which you need to do because we have to deal with them just about every month. We don't have a good relationship with the state officials either, which we need to have also. So we need to come together on our council, and I think with perhaps some new blood on the council, we can do that. And we always have to make sure that Caldwell, the welfare of Caldwell is the most important thing, and that's why we're elected to these offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy, same question to you.
I agree a lot with Chuck here. You know, again, in my line of work, I have to work with a lot of people, a lot of attitudes, a lot of different entities. We have to balance budgets, manage time, expectations. I got to deal with subcontractors, homeowners, building owners, entities like building, city, and stuff like that. And we have to have, in fact, not long ago, I had to have a meeting with planning and zoning and the engineering department in Caldwell. And having a sense of assertiveness, but also a sense of respect for the position. I've known Chuck for 18 years, and every time I talk to him, I call him councilman, and he says, knock that off, because I respect the position. Chuck and I don't always agree on everything, but we've always been very respectful to each other, as I have been with all other city councils and the mayor. And when I have to meet with these guys, like I did with planning and zoning, at the end of the meeting, I took a minute and said, this is my why I'm here having a debate with you. I'm not here to fight, I'm here to have a debate. And I would say I have a great relationship with engineering, planning, and zoning because of those conversations. So I come in with an understanding of this is what we've got to do. No's not an answer. How do we get to a yes? That's the answer. But you can be respectful in that. I don't always have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with me, but I can still go out, have a cup of coffee with you. We can break bread. We can have fun. I'm a Charger fan, so we'll go against the Vikings, and we can have fun with that. And that's it. You threw me off there, sorry.
Yeah, there are no questions about Chargers versus Vikings, but maybe there should be. Dennis, same question to you about consensus. How is it that you can remain really firm in your beliefs, but also reach across and not demonize counter beliefs?
First, I want to add that I'm a Vikings fan, so just everyone knows. So I come from military kind of raising. Chain of command is something you follow, you respect, but you still can't just let a chain of command tell you, I am on, right? Yeah. You still have to respect it, but at the same time question it. You have to have that communication, you have to have that respect at the same time. So going all the way up, going all the way down, you got to listen. But at the same time, if I'm a city councilman, I have people that are voicing to me, and that voice is what I'm channeling to them. And I'm going to speak up as that voice. I'm going to stand up for every person that's telling me this doesn't agree with, this doesn't feel right. And that's where I'm going to come from. I'm going to respect that opinion because that opinion should go both ways. Chain of command should not always have it coming from here and rolling down. We all know how the saying goes. But it needs to go both ways.
Thank you. Randy, we start this question with you, and it is, what are your thoughts on how to deal with homelessness, especially after the recent Idaho statute 67-2341, which outlaws public camping, public sleeping in cities with a population over 100,000. Boise, Meridian, Nampa, all have above 100,000 in population, making it more likely that those affected by the statute will head west. What are your thoughts on how to deal with homelessness?
So as a city, every city has a homeless concern. We need to create an environment for a developer or an investor to come in and have some incentive to want to build a mechanism, whether it's an apartment or whether it's like a hotel or whatever that mechanism is. As a city, we need to be prepared to offer an incentive for that. We offer incentives for businesses to come. We will offset property taxes, we'll offset impact fees, building permit fees, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to be able to have a similar mechanism to entice an investor to come in, so it can be, in the private sector, everything's got to have some level of mechanism for profit. And if we entice it right, then that mechanism can be created for, whether it's profit or a break even. Most investors aren't going to do it for just nothing or lose money. So if creating an environment that we can have that mechanism, whether it's shovel-ready dirt that we give them, whether it's something through URA, whether it's property tax relief, whatever that is, we need to be open to an idea and have the conversation. What can that look like, and how do we move forward with that? And again, just have open dialogue about it.
Thank you, Dennis.
Trying to write down all my notes. So I know I don't get much time, so I'm going to try to do this the best way I can. Homelessness isn't something that I see getting better. I even had a sergeant not even that long ago that he was a sergeant master first class. He just got out of the military, homeless 3 months later. It's a big deal. So I agree with what Randy has added. I want to add to it, though. No offense. Don't take it that way. I agree with that development. I agree that we need to find ways to encourage people to come into this community and find ways to build. Encourage that. Find a way to do new start homes for these people that are coming in that might have lost it. I mean, not everyone, people see homeless as such a bad thing. I mean, my sergeant wasn't. He was just a guy that retired and didn't have a check. Go from one job to nothing. So it's something to see. But at the same time, I know when we say low-income housing, a lot of people always kind of do that sigh and kind of not very happy about it. It's something we have to look into. It's something we need to see. We need to find ways to help the homeless so that they're not just on the street, because being on the street doesn't help them at all. If we can find ways to bring them back into the community, show them that we support them, I think it's going to help them be part of our community and keep going. And that's all the time I got.
Thank you. Chuck, what are your thoughts on how to deal with homelessness? What are your strategies and tactics?
Well, I have to agree 100% with what Randy said. There's a fine line between profits and loss and what kind of services that you develop for these people. I'm an Army veteran, and I've been on the Caldwell Memorial Veterans Board for almost 8 years now. And we developed a program there for veterans where we go out and get donations on toiletries, clothes, everything you can think of. We even have a shower in that building, too. It's the old Carnegie Library building, in case you folks don't know. But we have a program there where they can come in any day of the week and get cleaned up. We also have food items there. We have a large kitchen. And we also have what we call service officers, which we've developed. And what they do is they help them with education. They help them with staying in a motel. We have funds that will help them out with that, nightly, 2-night stay, 3-night stay. We also have programs where we can put them in a job source so they can find a job based on their expertise. And that's worked very well. We've seen over 1,000 veterans come into this building in this past month, and it's just creeping up and creeping up. So if we can develop social entities like that to take care of these people, I think we'd be a lot better off in the city too. And that's not an easy thing to do because, as Randy said, these folks that come in here to develop properties, they got to make a profit, and if they don't, they won't develop it. So it's a real problem.
Thank you. This next question deals with growth. Quite a few questions on that. We begin, Dennis, with you. How is it that you think that the city should manage this growth generally? And then two kind of subparts. What is the perceived negative impact on current citizens with regard to tax payments? And then second, do you agree or disagree with a one-year moratorium on high-density development? So there's a lot in there. Maybe we can do 2 minutes on this. Is that okay? 2 minutes on this? Thank you.
Thank you for that, because I was like, there's no way I can say all that in a minute and a half. So I have to make sure I understand that. That was a lot to try to understand. First, we're talking about population growth. Then we're talking about how the taxes are impacting it. And then the third part was?
Do you support a moratorium on high-density development?
Okay. So first, population. So this is based off of Google. You know, we always have to question how much Google is, but it was an estimate. Right now, we're at 73,466 people in Caldwell, not counting people outside of the boundaries, not counting people that are in that Caldwell-Nampa subsection where we get counted as all the utilities. But since 2020, we only had, in 2020 census, we had 60,641 people. That's a growth in 5 years of 12,825 people. That's pretty big. You take another 5 years, that's growth will only keep going, especially as we keep dumping in more residential and keep going with that number. So the growth problem needs to be almost countered, because we're looking at this issue where we have hit the point where and my word just left my head, we're struggling. We need bring in a little bit more commercial to support that, so our taxes are actually not getting so crazy. We have so much residential coming in, as in the first debate they were talking about. We have all this money that comes in right off the start with residential, but we don't have it continuing. We need commercial to help offset those taxes and make it so that that is sorry, you threw me off. Not everything that we're looking at. So we need that commercial to help offset those taxes, so the taxes aren't so high for residential as that population continues to grow, because it's not going to slow down. I don't see it, especially at the rate we're producing residential. And I don't know if I have time to even answer that last part of the question.
You've got 15 seconds. Do you support a one-year moratorium on high-density development?
It's a really hard question to answer. It's kind of a give and take. We need to be able to see it, but at the same time, we need to find a way to support the people that are in those houses that have been there a long period of time and can't pay those taxes that have been there, and I'm over time.
Thank you. Chuck, same questions to you with regard to what are your strategies to manage this kind of growth? What about the taxpayer implications? And finally, do you support a one-year moratorium on high-density development?
Well, first of all, I believe in infill. You know, we have city boundaries right now. We need to infill those particular pieces of property that we have out there that are for sale right now, instead of going out into ag ground. I come from an ag ground background, and I just don't believe it until we have infill. As far as a moratorium, I'm not sure it'd be 1 year, but most of you folks don't know, we have about 10,000 different projects right now that haven't even been built in our city. 10,000. And that's a lot of people. And when you look at the ratio of homeowners versus commercial, industrial, and ag, homeowners still, the tax burden on them is about 72-73%, and commercial industrial is down about 20-25%, and the rest is ag. 10-15 years ago, the ratios used to be around 60% homeowners, 30% commercial industrial, and the rest was ag. So we need to bring that percentages down so the homeowners do not have all the burden of our growth. That needs to be corrected, and the only way we can do that is have a moratorium on some of these buildings, because if we don't do that, again, we have these 10,000 units that still have to be built yet. Some are commercial, but most of it is residential. If we can't get a handle on that, we're going to get further and further and further behind, and your taxes are going to go up, up, and up, because homeowners, they still have the majority of their tax burden.
Thank you. Randy?
My answer is going to be similar to Chuck's, because Chuck and I have spent a lot of time talking about this as a general contractor and a builder. we've spent hours talking about it. Growth is growth. It's a problem. And what growth does is it shows problems of sins of our fathers. Roads that maybe we thought were good, now all of a sudden we have more travel on it, and now it shows that roads are bad because past administration, past leadership maybe didn't put as much focus on it. I've heard people say, why don't we put a moratorium on growth and let's bring infrastructure out there? Well, nobody's going to want to build a bridge to nowhere, hoping growth comes. They're not going to want to see their taxpayers spent that way. So what we need to do is we need to, just like Chuck said, and again, we've spent a lot of time talking about it, is I sit on the airport board, we just spent a lot of months doing a strategic plan. We need to do a similar type project, strategic plan for our comprehensive plan, take that large plan, hone it down, and focus on infill. And we also need to get some more incentives and get set up. And people are not going to like it that we're going to maybe pay at Lowe's, no property tax for 5 years to come in. But remember, 5 years will go by in a blink of an eye, and then it'll pay property tax. So to bring that growth or that commercial side up, like Chuck said, to get a more balanced 60-30-10 as a balanced tax base, we need to offer incentives. Rooftops are here, and it takes rooftops for stuff to come. A Costco's never going to come to Caldwell if we don't have the rooftops. We have the rooftops. As Chuck said, we have 10,000. Granted, it's all not rooftops for residential, but there's probably another 7,000 houses that are slated to be built. And so the rooftops are there. Now we need to get out and we need to offer the incentive and get an economic driver with Stephen Jenkins and his crew and really work hard on bringing that growth in. But the city's going to have to step up and offer some enticements to do that because that's what other cities are doing out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to a minute and a half per question, please. We're going to start with Chuck. This question is about communication. It's about, I'll just read it. How will you ensure that individuals who are not on social media are able to engage with you in this political process with regard to the city council? And the counterpart to that is that younger generations who are perhaps more embraced with regard to social media, how do you kind of draw that line?
Well, first of all, I'm not on social media. There's so much misinformation on social media, I don't even go on there anymore. If somebody sends me something that on my city email or my personal email or call me that they want me to look at and comment on, I'll be glad to do it. But I'm an open book. A lot of folks will tell you that. You can call me just about any time during the day. I've got 3 email addresses. You can email me, and I'll do my best to get an answer for you or answer the question if I know the information right away. So I'm an open book as far as communication, and I've never had a problem with that, and I think that people who know me real well will tell you the same thing, so it hasn't been a problem for me. As far as the younger folks are concerned, we used to have classes come in here, government classes come into our city council meetings, and they would actually not partake in the meeting itself, but they would listen to see how it's conducted, some of the problems that we have to face, some of the decisions we have to do, and I think we should resurrect that again. I know there was some comments on during the mayor's forum that we should go around to each one of these schools and do it. From a logistics standpoint, that's not possible. I mean, that doesn't work. But bring the classrooms in the year, let them listen to what we have to do, and I think that's the best way to do it. Thank you. Randy?
Again, much like Chuck, I was not on social media until I decided to run for city council. I got back on. And even being on social media, I think we could do a better job as a city, although I am finally getting subscribed, I think the word is, following, whatever it is, to the groups to allow me to see the stuff. But I also think we need to be engaged out in the community. We need to be down at Farmers Market. My wife and I attend down here at Farmers Market or the Tuesday events. Not often, but often enough. And I don't see a lot of other city leaders. Quite honestly, I don't see our current mayor much. I just don't. And I think being out there and in the public and being available for communication, much like Chuck, I tell people, if you want to have a conversation, don't talk about me, talk to me. And I'm available to talk to. I'm blessed. I still run companies, but at the same time, I have staff that can do stuff. So that's how Chuck and I have spent so much time being able to communicate and counsel with each other. Is we just get together. We've had lunch, breakfast, coffee, whatever works for us. And much like him, I am available, and I'll make myself available. And as far as integrating with the younger, again, I have a spirit and a heart to teach. I've taught several electrician apprentices. I've taught my young staff how to bid, how to go about in the industry, how to talk to customers, how to talk to bankers and municipalities, etc. So with a heart of giving or a heart of teaching, I would love to see. I remember Chuck's absolutely right. I remember when they came into the city council, but also we need to go out to the schools and maybe give a guest lecture, if you will. Not that I want to lecture, but a guest speaking. I'm being told overtime. Sorry.
Thank you, Dennis.
Sorry. Technology is a two-way road. As a teacher, I see it every day. You have students that walk in on their phones, and we have to ask them to put them down because they sit there so often and stare at it, you can't actually get them to pay attention to what's going on with you and what you're trying to teach. I mean, in English class, it's really hard when they're wanting to just stare at TikTok. But technology, unfortunately, is the way we are going in the world. So you have to be able to give and take. Unlike both of you, I grew up in technology. I have had to, unfortunately, learn how to manage it and not let it take over my time. Teaching students it, not the easiest thing in the world. I want to add that. We need support in our community. We need to be out there. We need to be, as Randy said, we need to be at all of the things that are happening. We need to be at the parades. We need to be coming to Christmas lights. We need to be showing our community that we are out there and we are with them and we are one with them at all times. And at the same time, we need to have an open door policy. Coming from military, open door policy means if I'm here, you show up. If you need to message me, you send me an email, I respond. Phone calls, same thing. But at the same time, you make sure that you show them that you're ready and willing to listen at any moment that you have someone that wants to talk. And that might mean sometimes you have to set a boundary, but it would be better to say, hey, I can't right now, but let's do in an hour, versus, I'm sorry, I'm not available. Please reach out to me when my offices are between 8 and 5.
Thank you. We have time for just one final question, and we begin with Randy. Randy, give us your closing argument. Tell us why Caldwell citizens should vote for you for this position.
Well, Caldwell, I'm Caldwell. I'm one of you. I'm a graduate here of Caldwell High. I went to school at BSU. I've never left Idaho. And I've built my businesses here. I've raised my family here. My daughter's here. Get a little emotional. But I'm one of you. I'm a son of Caldwell. I remember when there was just a handful of restaurants, a couple of Chinese restaurants, and a couple of pizza places to eat. I remember when Fifth Avenue was the main. We were at a meeting last night, and it was brought up again, and I remembered that Fifth Avenue was the main street. I remember when there was a stoplight on I-84, the only one from coast to coast. One-Eyed Pete. I remember all that. So I've seen what Caldwell was. I've seen what it can be, or I see what it is. I've told a lot of people this. I was a naysayer to the Indian Creek Plaza, but I am 100% supporter of it. We enjoy it immensely. And I think through smart growth, because growth is coming, it's our opportunity. We can't miss the opportunity. Smart growth and conversation, where I can bring conversation to the table that's just a different idea. I don't have the solutions. I don't have the answers. What I have is thoughts, ideas outside of the norm, being in the general contractor and the developing and the building world my entire career. I can just spark conversation, which is why Chuck and I have had so many conversations, because I bring a side to it. And that's what I can do. And I can tell you this, in my career, no problem's ever been solved without people being in the room talking, how do we solve the problem? And that's what I want to bring to this. So I would encourage and I would love to have your vote for that.
Thank you. Dennis, your closing argument.
So first, I grew up in Middleton. I spent more time driving here as a kid. I did horse shows at Kenny County Fairgrounds. I am the first proponent that would say that dirt lot has more of my sweat and tears in it every time I lost a race, every time I lost a horse show, than probably most people out there. But I also grew up in agriculture. I remember this getting so snowed in right over here on that nice bridge that I remember my parents' truck not making it up so we could come to the Christmas show and just do the parade, and it was cold. I remember my toes freezing. But I grew up here. I lived here. My first house was off Arthur Street. I unfortunately believed at 3 o'clock in the morning that train conductor was blowing that whistle to make sure I couldn't sleep. But I understood why I was living, and it was expected of me. If you vote for me, one of the things I'm looking at is we need to be looking at schools. We need to be looking at the support for schools. That goes all the way to SROs. That goes to how we're looking at our infrastructure. We need to be looking, because right now our infrastructure is very unbalanced. We need more commercial to balance it. We need to find ways to make our schools not be over capacity. We need to be looking at ways to solve all of this. And unfortunately, with only a minute and 30 seconds, I'd love to say more, but these are big things. Coming from a school background, that's a big deal. Now, my kid wanted me to say this, and my wife wanted me to say this before I wrap up, because I don't have signs or anything. Vote for Stack, I got your back.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Well, I agree with all of my partners here on what they said. The only thing I can add to it is I've got 8 years' experience of being on city council. I've got a lot of experience with the folks at the county level. I also have a lot of experience with presentations I've made at the state level also. My go-to guy up there is Bruce Skog. We've had a relationship for a long, long time, and he is a fellow Viking too, so that counts for me. But anyway, I've just created a lot of relationships with key people in the state, and I think that that experience gives me a little bit more of advantage than my partners here relative to what I can get done. They respect me, I respect them. We don't always agree, like Randy said, but with the partnership that we've had over the last 8 years, I think we can get a lot more things accomplished with the experience that I've had versus what has been going on here the last 4 years. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Please help me in congratulating and thanking our panelists for seat 2. Guys, we have one more panel remaining. Please stick around. We will come back to order at 7:32. 7:32. Thank you. Okay, let's get started with our final panel, please. If our panelists would join us at the dais, that would be great. Okay, thank you for joining us. This is our third panel for seat number 3. Maricela, I understand that you drew the short straw. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Fantastic. Well, let's get started. The same question to start for the first 2 panels will be directed at you guys. And that question is to please introduce yourself and then tell us why you are running for city council.
Okay, so my name is Maricela Pesina. A lot of people say, I don't know how to say your name, I don't roll my R's, but I tell them, if you can say Muddy Waters, you can say Muddy Pesina, Maricela Pesina. So it's really easy to say my name. I am a migrant worker, and the reason that I say that is because I come from family that were migrant workers. I was born in Caldwell. I was raised at what we used to call the Caldwell Labor Camp, which is now Farmway Village. That was my home for many, many years. My parents met there. They were both from South Texas, and so they met in Caldwell, and they raised their family there. I was able to go to Head Start there at the Caldwell Labor Camp, which is Farmway Village. But I've lived here all my life. I remember when Jack's Drive-In was not Jack's Drive-In, it was the Arctic Circle. And that's where you got your bucket of chicken to go to the park and eat there. So my desire to run for city council is because I feel like I am a person who loves to advocate for my community. I have advocated ever since I was a little girl, translating for my parents or my grandparents in English so that they could be understood. So I do that. I've done that all my life. I volunteer. I have done, I can't tell you how many band pants I've hemmed up, but I got to wrap it up. But my desire is to serve the people here in the city of Caldwell, and that is, I want to run for city council. That's the reason.
Thank you. Diana, please introduce yourself briefly and tell us why you are running.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight, and this is great. I love seeing our community come out and be part of the process. I want to make sure you can all hear me okay, but more importantly, that you can see me. I get a lot of feedback that during council meetings you can't see me, but it's because I need my feet to touch the ground, so I apologize for that. I want to tell a story a little bit about why I ran for city council in the first place 4 years ago. I came into it with a servant's heart. I really did not have an agenda. I didn't really know exactly what it was that I was planning on accomplishing. But my husband, who was a police officer for the city of Caldwell until his death in 2016, right before he died, he was wearing an expired bulletproof vest. And I decided that I was going to run for city council because I was going to find the money for our cops to have what they needed for their safety in order to keep us safe. So by golly, I was going to find whatever it is that I had to do. And I ended up winning that election. I called my mom that night and I said, Mom, I won the city council election. And she sort of squealed. And then I said, and now they want me to come there and do all this stuff, like everything. And so we found the money for bulletproof vests, but during that process of sitting on city council, I also found my voice and my passion, which really was representing the entire community as a whole. And I think that that's kind of what I've started, and I'd like to continue to do that.
Thank you. I've got to tell you, it's really tough for folks to explain all of that in a minute and a half, and you guys are doing a great job. We're going to start with you, Diana, with this next question, and it's about traffic. What are your thoughts on managing the increased flow of traffic through town, along with traffic noise that has increased?
Yeah, well, I think that traffic is one of those obvious side effects of growth, and I think growth is going to be the most common question that any of us get during our election campaigns is, what about the growth? And I think everybody in this room recognizes that there's growth and there's side effects of that. One of those things is traffic, right? We hear a lot in council meetings about traffic studies and what the experts say and what they think. And for me, it's been very important to listen to the community. We have people that come into our council meetings and they say, you know, I live at 10th and Ustick, and it now takes me 30 minutes to get downtown, where before it used to take me 10 minutes. To me, that's a traffic study, right? So I think it's very important that we don't wait for the city to come together with a bunch of money to do more studies, and we start listening to the community right now and see what it is that we need to do to be able to manage that better, along with road construction and making sure that our projects are not overlapping each other at the same time. I said the other day on a podcast I had to take a GPS to get home one day because I could not figure out how to get past all the traffic. So I think there needs to be some organization within the city projects. We know we want to get them done. The city does a great job doing them, but we do need to have a way to make sure that we're not putting more burden onto the city by making it so we can't get anywhere.
Thank you. Marisela?
Okay, so I'm all about stories. So when I was, but way back in the day, young mother, I worked at Micron for 10 years. Getting from Canyon Hill to Micron in Boise took me 30 minutes. And I don't think I sped. I don't think I did. But it took me 30 minutes. And now I cannot get from Caldwell to, let's say, Costco sometimes in 30 minutes. And so I do understand it is the growth. I think we've had construction ever since I was taking driver's ed back in the 70s. There's always been construction on I-84. But as I'm getting older and I research the reasons why, I ask people, why do we have all this? Sometimes I think about the roundabouts. Why are all those roundabouts being done at the same time? Why, and I have a child who works for the bus company, and that's a big issue. But we have to understand the funding mechanisms for a lot of these developments. Sometimes the funding is ready for it to be used, and it has a cutoff time. So if you don't use it, you lose it. And then with my experience being on the school board, we have ESSER funds that we received, and it's the same thing. If you don't use those funds, you're going to lose them. So it's important for us to understand that there sometimes are construction that's being done all at the same time, but yeah, my time is up. She's going to start hitting me with rubber bands.
Thank you. Marisela, we're going to stick with you. How do you plan to advocate for the entire city, specifically minority communities, considering the differentiation of people who live in different locations within our city, considering the differentiation of socioeconomic strata in the city and demographics? How is it that you plan to advocate for the entire city?
Well, I've been doing it my whole life. When we opened up the Indian Creek Plaza, I showed up and I said, the calendar that you have here, where is Cinco de Mayo? Where is the Day for the Dead celebration? You know that there's 38% of the people that live in the city of Caldwell are Latinos, and we spend money. And I told them, we may not have a college fund for our kids, we may not have, investments, but boy, by golly, we got $200 that we're gonna blow on my mom's, for Mother's Day. And we're gonna spend that money at the plaza. So, for me to advocate for my people, I'm just gonna say, I used to be Jehovah's Witness, so door knocking and talking to people is very easy to me. And being on a school board, talking to parents of children that, we're having problems with children coming to school, or we need to know why, it's very easy for me to go to their doors and talk to them. And that's the best. And also, you can get a lot of people and talk to a lot of Latinos. If you go to a quinceañera, you go to a wedding, you're going to have a huge audience, and that is how I advocate, because I find out what their needs are, and they tell me face to face, and when I hear those needs over and over again, then I realize that is what needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana, how do you plan to advocate for the entire city, given the diversity herein?
Thank you. I think I've been doing it. I think if you've been paying attention to council meetings for the last 4 years, I have been doing that. When people come into our council meetings, I feel like I am really invested in hearing what people have to say, what subdivisions together have to say, and doing the follow-up with them and communicating with them. I can give you a handful of people that would testify to that we've had follow-up after the meetings that don't make it to social media and, things like that. Speaking of social media, I think it's an avenue and a forum for some people that works best for them. Sometimes it's a really great way to reach more people than waiting at a council meeting or having a one-on-one coffee, although I'm totally up and available for that. I love doing neighborhood gatherings, as most of you have probably seen Donuts in the Driveway, which there's one next Saturday if anybody wants to come in Cumberland Estates. But I'm really proud that I consider, my people, the entire community, all of Caldwell. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your ethnicity is. I don't care where you have lived, where you were born, what gender you are, what your address is. I want to represent you, and I hope to be able to continue to do that. And I think that I've been doing it.
Thank you. I want to remind our folks who are with us online that we are monitoring the questions that you are asking us via chat, so please keep them going. This is one of those, and we're going to stick with you, Diana. What is the best strategy for student safety? Is there a 100,000 or 109,000 SRO appropriate?
So I just want to clarify the last part of that question. Is there 100,000 or what was that?
Yeah, I'm reading from the card, so I cannot describe it more than that. So let's just go with the basic question. What is the basic best strategy for ensuring our students' safety?
Yeah, so, from a city perspective and also with my, I have 20 years off and on in law enforcement, I do believe that SROs are one of the best commodities that we can use to put in the schools. When I was a dispatcher for decades, it was extremely helpful when we had SROs in the school for kids who had concerns because those SROs are able to develop relationships with them and have that one-on-one interaction instead of a police officer just showing up. In saying that, I believe that the training that our police officers get for student safety is also paramount. For a very long time, when there were school shootings and things like that, they were only sending cops in and they were never sending in medics. Towards the end of my dispatching career, they started training medics and with the police to come in together as a group to get help for the students. So I believe that SROs are extremely important in the schools. I think that we should have them there, and in fact think we should probably have more. And I think that the training with the schools and the police department is incredibly important to be done in tandem, and that they all work together to make sure that we have plans and that the kids feel safe, but also safety from a perspective of we have a lot of kids who struggle, and I feel like that's another benefit of having an SRO in the schools, that they can work with the kids towards their, however it is that they feel and those kinds of things, and hopefully develop a relationship to help them have a place to go.
Thank you. Manicela.
Yes, thank you for that question. So sitting on a board, school board for 8 years, SROs has been a subject that we've had to really talk about and make decisions on. So first of all, if y'all don't know, the funding comes from the state. So that is, I think it's imperative that we understand where some of this government money comes from. And I know City Council does a great deal, they are, they take care of our police department, or that's part of the city. But what I want to say about SROs is we've had some amazing SROs, amazing. Johnny Baldazzo, that I graduated school from. We've just got, the connection that our kids have with SROs is sometimes many of our kids, and when you work with the school district, you understand that a lot of these kids, we have a low socioeconomic area, and a lot of these kids do not have male role models, positive male role models. So these SROs provide that for these kids. And so for me, an SRO is important. They are absolutely necessary. And what I would love to see is more funding for SROs, but that comes from the state. So they do more than that. They like Ms. Register said, they have relationships with children who really need that in their lives at the time. So, thank you.
Thank you. We'll stick with you, Marisela. What Treasure Valley or Idaho leader best represents your worldview?
Treasure Valley or Idaho leader? Do I get points if I say your name?
I'm not a leader, but yes, you do get points.
Don't start my time yet. Hold on, don't start my time yet. Okay. Idaho leader. Okay, I'm gonna go with Cecil Andrus. Okay, and this is the reason I'm gonna tell you that. When I first became a school board trustee, there was, I looked and researched because when I get a position that I, especially when I was elected for that position, I had never been anything like that. And I start looking at different towns, different cities that have school board trustees. What do they look like? What are, in Chicago and Florida, what do they look like? A lot of these people had letters behind their names, and I did not. So I didn't have a degree. And I thought, oh my gosh, so I better be the best that I can be. I better roll up my sleeves. I better look up and see what Robert's Rules of Law is all about, what open meeting law is all about, how to follow it. Because I don't want people to say, oh my gosh, she's up there, but she's making a fool out of herself. She's doing her homework. She knows what she's doing. And then there was some times that I would think, oh my gosh, but I don't even have a degree. So then one fine lady came up to me and told me, did you know that Cecil D. Andrus did not have a degree? And look at what an amazing man he was. So for me, that's my leader right there.
Thank you. Diana.
So I'm going to say this, and it's not because he's sitting in the room, but it is Counselor Stodic, and I'm going to tell you why. He is kind. He is a man of faith. He is a true public servant. He is a true steward of taxpayer money. He tells it exactly like it is. And for me, when I started on city council, it's very intimidating and it's really, really scary. And he was really, really nice to me. He was nice to me. He was honest. He was trustworthy. I could call him and ask him questions. He was very much a mentor. And interestingly, I know this is going to kind of come as a shock, but we don't agree on everything. But he is always extremely respectful to me. And my dad passed away 15 years ago, and I was thinking about this the other day, that Chuck has really been kind of like that father figure for me, that in this city council sort of purview, I don't think he approves of me all the time and everything that I do and social media and every decision that I make. But I've been very, very, very thankful to have somebody like that on my side, and he teaches me a lot about potatoes and things like that. And I'm half Norwegian, so the whole Viking thing works on good too.
I mean, it's kind of crazy to say, but we are at our final question, and I apologize for the rapidity with which this has taken place, and I encourage all of us to speak with our candidates. They have booths outside in the foyer. Please speak with them more about their platforms. This final question, let's have 2 minutes, please, for each candidate, and we start with you, Diana, to kind of give your closing argument, and with that closing argument mean why should Caldwell citizens vote for you. Also, please try to identify what separates you from your opponent.
Yeah, I don't really want to call it a closing argument, because I feel like, for me, I've done the best job that I can do over the last 4 years. I've had to learn a lot. I've made mistakes. I have had to eat crow. I've had to learn how to do things differently. Like I said, coming onto council was kind of like drinking water out of a fire hose, and you're just sort of trying to keep up and you're trying to learn everything, but you're probably never really going to be an expert at everything when you're tasked with so many different things. But the thing that I am the most proud of is connecting with the community. And I really, truly feel like your representation, no matter who it is that you elect, should be representing you as a proxy. It should not be something where I've heard other leaders or representatives say that, well, they elected me to make the decisions, therefore I know everything, I'm just going to go ahead and make the decision for them because that's what they've elected me to do. I don't really subscribe to that. Some cases maybe, but for the most part, I believe that you are a proxy for the community that's represented you or elected you to be their representative. I'm a community member first, I'm your neighbor, I'm a small business owner, and I'm not done. I'm just not done representing my community, and if you'll have me, I would like to continue to stay. What sets me apart, I suppose, is the experience. I don't know Ms. Pacina as well as I probably should, so I don't want to speak to what our big differences are, but I do know that I want to continue to represent the community and continue to bring what I bring.
Thank you. Maricela, why should Caldwell citizens vote for you, and what, if anything, differentiates you from your opponent? 2 minutes.
Okay, so on November 4th, I ask you for your vote. I work really hard. I do my homework. I want to represent the folks that live in my town. And for me, that is the biggest thing. I love my town. Like I said, I was born here. I remember so many events here. Like, remember when the Christmas parade was not at night? You know, those kinds of things. Remember when we didn't get a mall because the powers that be didn't want Caldwell to grow that much, and so we all had to go to Karcher Mall to go to a mall. You know, things like that. And so I love my town. I've seen the changes. There's a lot of cool things that are happening out there. But most of all, I believe that there has to be, we have to work together as a city council. I feel that I have the ability to make relationships. Even if I don't know you, by the time we're done talking, we're going to get together. Like the next weekend, and we're going to have coffee, and we're going to talk about, I want to hear about your life, and I want to hear about your expectations. That's the kind of person I am, and that's the kind of person I've had to be with my school board, because a lot of those folks, I did not know who they were. But I knew that we had the task of using taxpayer money to be able to do the best that we could with the little that we had and make education important for our kids. And that's, we don't always agree, and I completely understand that. But there can be decorum, there can be respect, there can be civility, and that's what I would like to see, because it is important when our community sees that as well. There's a certain respect that comes with that. And then also just making sure that your voices are heard. And I will do that. I will be there for you. So on November 4th, please vote for me.
Thank you. Everyone, Caldwell, thank you for engaging in this political process. It's so important. Please help me in also thanking the College of Idaho students who are here, the City of Caldwell, the Chamber of Commerce, and the League of Women Voters, and especially our candidates. Thank you.
I can't let anybody go unless we give a round of applause to our moderator, McKay Cunningham. Thank you, Atanya, for helping back him up and fielding all the questions. And thank you to all the volunteers, chamber staff, all the participants, and the audience as well. You all are here tonight when you could be doing other things, that this is important. We thank you for it.